action. A 40-minute race set to have a whole lot of stuff to worry about if you are these racers. Have to worry about the pit stop. Inside your screen, switched his attention to the massive pack of race cars that's going to blow his doors off and blow off the starter stand. The green flag is out, the drivers are on their way. Locked throughout this race, the grass and the gravel that lines this racetrack. It's old school, so it doesn't have a whole lot of asphalt runoff area. He's a very talented racer of his own. These two fast. They grabbed very early on into this race. Looking Daniel Wood at a big crash, heading through turn number 1. That she's in that turn number 4. And here we go, side-by-side racing off into the corner. This can usually end in tears. One of these drivers is going to have to back out of it. That's going to be at Gala. But Martin's still allowing some room coming out of the corner. The side-by-side going up the hill through turn number 6. Spade coming out of the corner. Walker, the Canadian, in the number 96. They are banging doors, heading into the braking zone for the final time. They're linked together. Going on there. That or you put a qualifying fuel load in either way. Getting a whole lot of pressure side by side with himself, and that is
now coming out of the pits. Let's see what his pit lane time is, because this is going to be very important when Yanchi wins.
I don't know what to say. Oh, there's Brett Cathcart upside down. And another driver coming in. That's Jeff Jacobson upside down. Oh, boy. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 6 of the season, coming to you today from Silverstone. My name is Ron Mons. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Randall McGrew, and in the virtual production hall we have Adam Thompson. We're set to round off the first half of this season at a quintessential UK track. It's hosted the British Grand Prix for about 14 quintillion years, and even hosted the first Formula One Grand Prix at this very track all the way back in 1950. Silverstone is a wonderful circuit in the world of motorsports, with a lot of alterations made it to it through the years, but Silverstone's still an absolutely wonderful ride, and in these draft-heavy Spec Racer Fords, I have a feeling we're in for an absolute barn burner of a race here today, Randall.
Absolutely. Silverstone is a very technical track, not a lot of elevation changes, not a lot of cambering on these corners, going to provide a very stout challenge to these drivers. And let me tell you, Ron, it has been one boring of a half season for me not covering the Spec Racer Ford League, because this group always puts on a good show. I expect an incredible race here at Silverstone, a tricky track. I think we'll see a pretty big separation between Spec 1 and Spec 2, with a nice peppering of the Masters division between the two specs. And this is another one of those tracks that really, you'll see the cream rise to the top during this race. We'll see a lot of pack separation after the first couple laps, and it's a very long lap time for these drivers.
Yeah, an incredibly long lap here at Silverstone, and a foggy one as well, but I'll talk about the weather a little bit later on. It's the UK, can't be too surprised. Let's take a look at the point standings, though, and it's Felix Samoa's leading the Spec 1 Championship. Samoa's been incredibly fast all throughout this season, but only has one victory, that coming at the opening race of the season at Bathurst. He has been very close, though, was involved in a battle for the win at Spa, Zolder, and also Summit Point as well, but just has not come up his way. Still leading the championship, though, 408 points on the board. You have to go back a little bit to find Jason Green in second, Trent Kramer running after top 3 in the Spec 1 category. Practically nothing really between all those drivers at the front. Certainly far off from what we saw last season, but I will leave it at that. In Spec 2, though, competitive as always, a Canadian in the 413 car of Dan Witzak currently leads the championship point standings, 85 points on the board. Nearly slipped into Australian there. Holy cow. Paolo Brema, the Italian, the 555 car, currently slotted in P2. Not terribly far off Witzak either. That's 13 points, so not a lot in it for those two drivers. Daniel Salmon going to round out your top 3 in the Spec 2 category. Gonna move on now to Masters, and very much so like it was for a decent chunk of this season for the Formula Fords. Jörg Monty, yet again, very fast here in the Spec Racer Fords. 364 points on the board right now. He leads it in the Masters category, but we got a lot of time left to go in this practice qualifying session, I should say. And on the subject of Jörg Monty, Randall, would you like to give us a tour guide around this track with our tour guide himself, Jörg Monty?
Absolutely. Jörg Manning now making his way through Club Corner onto the Lewis Hamilton straight to start a flying lap. Hopefully he'll be setting a full lap here as we see him approaching turn 1. Very fast corner, a little bit of a lift and a downshift there to get through turn 1, and now making his way through Farm Curve up towards Village. We'll see him get onto the brakes about where that curbing starts and turn the car in. Once he gets that car pointed in the right direction, he'll make his way towards the loop. Turn 4, very slow corner. You want to get a nice late apex here and get onto the throttle as early as possible. Come back across through turn 5, flat out easily. Clip that inside curb and get a good run down the Welting straight. This is a good opportunity to draft the car ahead, possibly set up for a overtake into Brooklands. We're going to see him turn in pretty early here into Brooklands, carrying some speed, working for a nice late apex, going to wind out and then a bit of a mid exit and then try to double apex this long right-hander of left field and set up on the run up to Woodcut down the straightaway, approaching the very tricky turn 9 of Cops. We're going to see him blend over to the left and try to get onto the binders as little as possible as he makes his way through Cops and going to run and use as much of the track as possible. Get all the way over onto the apex curb, run all the way out. You got to be careful not to get too wide there. It's easy to pick up an off track and invalidate your lap. Move your car back over to the right-hand side and a very, very quick run through turn 10 and into Maggots, Beckett's, and Chapel, the most iconic section of this track. Quick right, left, back to the right, left again, and try to get the speed back going onto the throttle early and the big run down the Hangar Straight. Your best passing opportunity here is at the end of Hangar Straight into turn 15, Stowe, and you need to get that move done. You're going to try to outbrake your competition here, and actually you kind of apex a little bit early here and get back to that throttle and run out and use as much of that runoff as you can there on the exit. Then bring the car back over to the right as you enter the Vale chicane. The left, you want to stay off that big sausage, and then the right, you also want to stay off of that big sausage, let it ride out, and then come back through Club Corner to get the lap completed. The start finish line there right after the exit of Club Corner, so not much time to get any kind of drag race done. So you need to get a move done early, very quickly there. As we're now taking a look at Sul Ashutwi, who is currently your pole sitter. He's only up by about 4/100ths of a second over Jörg Manning. So Jörg's setting a really good pace here. Then it's another one. It's another 10th and a half, 10th and 3/4 back to Nicelli, who's normally at the sharp end of this field. So seeing him in third, it seems like maybe he's sandbagging a little bit.
Yeah, Nazelli in third. It's nice to see him out in the qualifying session, because I usually just see him not sad time at all and then overtake about 14 bajillion race cars. Gotta say, on the subject of 14 bajillion race cars, what was it, 58 cars we had last time at Silverstone? Holy crap, I am surprised that my PC is still up and running after that fantastic race we had 1 week ago. We still got 43 cars around this track, so this is going to be a brilliant one, and a brilliantly close one at that. Just look at the lap times. I will say the minute and the seconds, just because I don't want to go through the tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. Otherwise, that would be way too much of a mouthful. You look through Al Shutwi on the provisional pole, 219 to Monty, 219 for Nazelli. Then you go in the 220s, 220 for McConnell, 220, 220, 220, 220, 220, 220, 220, 220. So many drivers setting just about the same lap times. I'm looking through with the current display that we've got. Do we have a tie? We don't have a tie yet. However, we certainly got quite close, as I believe Adam Bradshaw, at least according to the graphics, is no, actually it was waiting a little bit to update, because I was going to say that he was only 1,000th off, but I was like, that doesn't look just about right. I will say Felix Samoa's, though, only a couple of thousandths, 8,000ths of a second to be a bit more precise, off the back of Phil Berry, who's currently holding on to the Spec 2 pole position. Jorg Mani, who had that onboard lap with, was on the provisional overall pole, however, finds himself in second as Sol Al-Shutwi is leading it right now. Al-Shutwi has had a pretty good season up to this point, already has 2 checkered flags, one coming out Rodskogen in a rather dominant fashion, the other coming out Zolder, which was an absolute heartbreaker for Samoa, is leading coming out of that final chicane, but picking up a slowdown in the process and losing out on it at the very end. And oh, look at that, Love with the drift, heading through cups. I'll hope not to have a moment like that in the races. Felix Samoa is jumping up to the provisional pole.
Samoa's still showing muscle after last season. Samoa's was fast. It seemed like every week. I don't know how well that's translated into this season, but right now at the top of the leaderboard, not much gap between him and Sewell, but that top 3 looking really tight right now, and the Selly not far off. The good news for some of these drivers is, as long as they can keep contact with the drivers up front, that there's a lot of opportunity to slipstream around here. So between the slipstream and maybe a little bit of fuel saving, they can stay in the contest to win this race. But on speed alone, it's a very, very small number of drivers that are able to break through that 220 barrier.
Yeah, as it stands currently, only 4 below that. Let's see if that number does grow between now and the end of this qualifying session, coming up in about 4.5 minutes time. And as we're still in this qualifying session, we should probably talk about this week's sponsor, which is the drivers in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors series. And we do have a lot of them out there on the racetrack. That's one thing about the Weekend Warriors. It is a true community of racers, all looking to have a very good time, and all the good times you can catch here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, week in and week out. Gives you a reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. There we go. My thoughts exactly, Adam. This isn't anything without you guys and gals and everyone out there on the racetrack, even the people on the YouTube chat as well. We see you chatters out there and out there on the interwebs chiming in to hear me sound like I'm speaking in tongues for about an hour and a half straight, and see some fantastic racing, which we can't really see too well because of the fog at the moment, looking like a clear and cool morning in Beijing, China, as these drivers still tackle the end of this qualifying session.
Over in the UK, this is what they call a beautiful spring day. This is typical weather over for the UK. So some of the native drivers are going to take to this really well. Jason Green setting a really good time, breaking into the 219s as well. Going to put him in P4 and not very far off of the lead, less than a tenth, just right at a tenth off the lead. So he's flexing his muscles here in the late in the qualifying session. We'll see. He's going to have some time to run a couple more laps and at least one more lap, possibly 2, and who's that right behind him is in a prime position to really benefit from the slipstream and Jason's pace. So we'll see if Jason continues to punch a hole in the air for him right now. But I'm trying to see who that is. I can't quite make out the number because of this wonderful UK weather, and that is. Is there a number on this
possibly? Car? I'm looking through. Yeah, there is a number.
No, it's not Paulo Brem. It's a Welsh driver, whoever it is.
Maybe, oh boy, that's
366. Is that a 366 on there? Or 666? Is that Alan? Is it the devil?
Oh, 8 Alan.
It's the devil.
Oh boy. I think we may have to play some Ozzy Osbourne if we talk about the devil too much on this broadcast. But still, Alan running in 20th at the moment, and that was a very odd comment from me. I will say the main reason why that popped into my head is whenever I think of Hell, I think of the opening riff from Black Sabbath's Cornucopia. So just to clear the air on that one, Ozzy Osbourne certainly not the definition of Hell. However, I believe when he unfortunately disappears from this earth, I believe he would fist fight the devil himself and very likely win. Where the hell have we gone on this broadcast? 8 Allen, though, currently qualified in 20th. And this is exactly why I don't talk about music on these broadcasts, Randall.
I'm trying to fact check you here. I can't remember if Cornucopia was actually sang by Ozzy or not. It might have been the Dio era of Black Sabbath, but I think it was. I think it was actually Ozzy. We got 3 green sectors right now out of Allen, looking to really make his way up the leaderboard. He got a healthy dose of slipstream from Jason Green on the first half of the lap. We'll see as he comes through club corner what this is going to do for him. We'll see him jump up here. I'm expecting, unless he managed to run wide. No, he didn't. Up to 10th place. Still not breaking through the 220 barrier, but a massive improvement for him, and going to put him on the 5th row provisionally. Sul Ashutwi now back on pole position with a 2:19.427, 3/10 faster than Samo. So he's found something here in the closing stages of the qualifying and really making his mark.
Yeah, Al Shutway and Samoa is proving themselves to be the drivers to keep an eye on for all throughout this Spec Racer Ford season here for season 1 of 2025. Marcus Burkett, though, he may be cooking with gas. Let's see if he's gonna cook a 5-star meal or whether he's gonna burn the kitchen down. Has he got the exact same paint scheme as?
At least his number's legible.
So
yes, it's the same paint scheme.
That's a plus. I will say, full transparency, folks, I haven't run trading paints yet, so that could be part of the reason why I didn't know what the hell was going on. But yeah, very, very patriotic looking scheme from Marcus Burkett with the Welsh car. Gotta say, of all the flags of any country in the world to turn into a livery for a race car, it's got to be the Welsh flag because it's got a damn dragon on it. That's pretty damn cool.
Absolutely. It gives me the biggest nerd boner seeing a dragon anywhere. And the Welsh flag is a really, really good looking flag. So we can see him coming through club corner and across the line. We'll see if he gets an improvement here. Not able to improve his position, but it does set a personal best time for him of a 2:22.345. So he'll be starting, it looks like, in 27th place. The checkered flag is out on qualifying, so we're still waiting for a few drivers to finish their last laps and see if there's any movement. But provisionally, Sul Ashutwi is on pole position. We see some drivers dipping into the pit lane. Pit lane is going to play a huge role here this week. Anytime you race here, pit lane is a huge issue. They increased the speed limit of pit lane in the sim a few years ago. So now you don't lose nearly as much time making a pit stop as you used to. So maximizing that pit entry and getting a good exit could be the absolute clinching win clinching move for a driver. So you really do need to practice that pit entry. It could be very tricky to get right, but you need to carry a lot of speed into it.
Yeah, that pit entry is one of the heaviest braking zones around the entirety of this racetrack. If you get it wrong, you are completely screwed. So these drivers hope not to get screwed over by the pit entry, but these pit stops are very important. We've seen a lot of races thus far this season be decided through pit stops. I'm sure the exact same thing was the case last season when you were covering this series, Randall. So Spec Racer Ford, they just always put on a good battle, and considering how close the times we have are, I have a feeling we're going to have a case of deja vu yet again. The classic Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors race. Gonna have some great racing, and right as we cut away from that was beautifully done. Thank you very much, Adam, for that. Right as we see Trent Kramer turn the front end of his car into just complete scrap metal, we cut over to Antonio Reese, who's currently the second fastest Masters driver, but he's 10 spots behind Jörg Mani. So really, that's showing a lot in the Masters category. Mani just in a completely different zip code in terms of pace, and pretty big gaps in terms of the amount of cars separating the front 3 in Masters. We've got Mani in 4th, Antonio Reese in 14th, and Adam Bradshaw back down in 22nd.
Aleix Pleva moves up to second place here in the closing stages, and he's much closer to the pace of Sul Ashutwi, which is not a surprise. Aleix Pleva is a perennial favorite to win any of these races as long as he can stay out of trouble. So Aleix flexes his muscles here in qualifying. We'll see if he's able to parlay that into a good finish in the race. I'll be keeping my eyes on him for sure. Not afraid to go for overtakes, not afraid to be aggressive. Sometimes gets caught up in trouble that's not always his own fault, but But if he can put an entire race together, look out for him to challenge for the win. These gaps, while they look pretty big on the timing screen with a lap time of 2 minutes and 20 seconds, it's not as big as you would expect. If it was a minute and a half track, you could basically cut those gaps in half, and that would be more accurate to what you're used to seeing on a racetrack. So the gaps, not as big as some of them, not as big as they appear.
Yeah, so let's just see how things shake out in this 40-minute race that we have coming up. The draft certainly got to keep that field as vacuum sealed together as a bunch of vacuum sealed chicken breasts. But with that terrible saying out of the way, let's talk about the starting grid. Solal Shutwe got to be grabbing the pole from this race. We got a shortened pace lap, dear God. Elias Pleva will be starting in P2. Felix Samoa is in fourth. Jorg Mani taking the Masters pole. He's going to be starting in fourth. I think I said Felix Samos is starting in fourth as well. He's starting in third. Jason Green will start this race in fifth. Maurizio Nazelli going to join him on that third row. Michael McConnell will find himself in seventh for the start of this race. Chris Hewson will be starting in eighth. Phil Berry in ninth. Kevin Binkley will round out your top 10. Trent Kramer will start this race from the 11th starting spot. Dan Witzak will be starting in 12th. Should be known that Phil Berry is going to be the highest starting Spec 2 driver. Aid Allen in the 666 car will find himself starting this race in 13th. Antonio Reese alongside him in 14th. Flavio Andallo in 15th. Ben Rycroft in 16th. Kenneth Batley in P17. Jesus Rodriguez in P18. And rounding out your top 20, we're going to have Michael Odell and Paolo Brema.
Sebastian Post is going to be starting in 21st with Adam Bradshaw in 22nd. Behind them, Ray Smith in 23rd. Brad Cathcart racing from down under in a P24. 25th is SMB's own Josh Wilkie, who's continuing to sandbag even though he's in the Pro Division or the Spec 1 division now. He needs to get a move on to make his way through some traffic. 26th, Michael Nelson. Jim Brewster going to be starting 27th with Matt Thompson racing for Frito Sport in 28th position. Joaquim Osbeck is in 29th with Stephen Mitchell rounding out your top 30. 31st, Claudio Gardini with Edgar Sanchinelli in 32nd. 33rd, Andrew Love with Marcus Burkett starting alongside him in 34th. GC Course going to be in 35th. Paul Jackson, 36th. And as we scroll down through the field, 37th, Michelle Viglini, Sergio Dorelli in 38th, Andrea Favini in 39th, Josh Arnold in 40th, and to round out the field, Daniel Salmon in 41st, and Russell Tucker 42nd, and shotgun on the field, Mario Crimser.
43 cars, and we're able to get through all of them before they even start the formation lap. Perfect timing. There we go, Randall. Well done. That was absolutely fantastically played from the, I'll say the both. I'll give you the credit more than me. I was just sounding like a bumbling idiot going through the top 20. But here we go. Still foggy. The relative humidity set at 100%. You can't see anything from the slow motion broadcasting blimp. That's going to make for a really tricky landing. Good thing I'm not the pilot. I would enjoy the salary. I certainly wouldn't enjoy the responsibility. Relative humidity for this race set at 100%. These drivers going to be driving through soup, but waiting for that green flag to come out, which it has now, and the drivers are on their way. Heading through onto that Lewis Hamilton straightaway at the very start. Incredibly disorganized at the front of the field. Solal Shutwe pulling out to an early lead. Elias Pleva slot in P2. Felix Amos and Jason Green battling hard. Nazelli getting involved in some action as well. Side by side with some action going on a little bit farther in the back. Driver scrambling. That's a car spun around. That, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, maybe a Masters racer, possibly. I'm not entirely sure who that is. Daniel Salmon looking to pick up the pieces. It was a Masters driver. That was Michael Nelson, the Dane, in the 959 car. He goes off the circuit, losing out on a boatload of time at the very start of this race. I'm curious as to whether or not he got a little bit of a love tap from Josh Wilkie. Let's take a look at heading through the final corner of Club. Yes, it was contact.
Josh Wilkie very eager to get on the throttle there, runs out a little bit too wide, doesn't leave room out there on the outside. Gonna probably be visiting the stewarding trailer immediately after this race. Already has a black eye, and gonna have to get his nose down and not let one mistake become more mistakes. Try to get some laps in, get some positions, but early trouble there for the Masters driver. He's got a lot of ground to make up as well. So we rejoin the live pictures. So let's shoot. We leaving the way over Leish Pleva. I'm surprised they didn't have to install a lighthouse down in turn one, so these drivers knew where they were driving to. It's so foggy out there. It doesn't seem to be as bad here at track level, but that blimp view, wow, I'm surprised they're even letting them fly.
Yeah, I gotta wonder what sort of permission they got to actually look at that. Holy cow, that is Beautiful view. Ah, yes, it's looking very gray out today. Antonio Reese can't even see him at the present moment. This is unbelievable. The lack of visibility that these drivers are having at the moment. I think you need to restrict that blimp to a flying distance of about 50 feet, which I feel like may be a safety hazard. But, again, I'm not the pilot, so that's neither here nor there. That'd be an interesting thing to commentate on. And there goes the S&B blimp into the gravel trap coming out of turn number 2. But Antonio Reese, who we're riding on board with in 11th, think of it this way. We've had a lot of craziness go on in this race. We haven't even completed the first lap here, Randall. It is a really long ride. Hoping that's not a really wrong ride for these drivers, because that wouldn't be ideal at all. But a really long ride around this racetrack, and that is a tongue twister for me. So I'm not even going to attempt to say that 5 times fast. Otherwise, I may end up doing the rest of this broadcast with my tongue hanging out of my mouth.
So we see they give up a few seconds here on the opening lap as they were getting up to speed, but we should see them up to speed. The tires, the good thing about a long lap like this is you have plenty of time in one lap to get the tires up to temperature, so they should be feeling pretty good now. We should start seeing some people become pretty racy. We're going to jump back and see what happened here with Andrew Love in the 544 car coming off the hangar straight, coming down towards the Vale chicane in line, and it looks like gets on the brakes a little bit late, has to lock him up, and gets into the back of the 210. That's a lot of front end damage on that car. He's going to need to get the Flex Seal out to get that repaired here anytime soon. That's going to negatively affect the straight line speed of that car heavily. And that doesn't even include any sort of suspension or wheel geometry damage. So he may be dealing with a car that doesn't want to steer properly on top of being slow, as we jump back to Felix Simoes, who's all over the rear bumper of Aleix Pleva.
I love that reference there, Randall. To show you the power of Flex Seal, I sawed this boat in half. One driver looking to saw their way through the field is Felix Simoes. That was a terrible transition, but he's still running in third. The front three completely unchanged from where they were at the very start of this race. Al Shutwee still leading over Aleix Pleva in P2. Felix Simoes right after podium in third. York Monty leading in the Masters category at the moment. Dan Witzak leading in Spec 2 with Monty and Witzak running in P6 and P9 respectively. There's a joke to be made there. However, I will shut it as we see some side-by-side racing involving Antonio Reese. Maybe getting a little bit racy with Witzak. Witzak, the Pied Piper of a massive line of race cars going all the way back to Jesus Rodriguez in 17th. But Reese getting a bad run coming out of Meggetts and Beckett's and Scheppel onto that hangar straightaway. He's going to drop down like a rock. Phil Berry got moved on him. Aid Allen got moved on him as well. We may see Michael McConnell get a move done along with Ben Rycroft, but a big pack of race cars at the front of this train is still Witzak, the leader at the moment in Spec 2, but Witzak needs to be careful as you've got Phil Berry and Aid Allen run right behind him.
We see Paulo Bremen, Adam Bradshaw duking it out for the lead of the fourth group. We have 4 groups here in the front half of the field, and we see up front there's already a 2 1/4 second gap from the top 3 back to 4th place. We're going to take a look here at GC Course to see what happened here coming down the hangar straight. They're going 3 wide into the corner, and it looks like the 210 car, very wisely back out there. And then Course going to just get a little bit loose, and for all the patience, the 210 show gets repaid with pain as GC Course comes spinning across the track, leaves that poor 210 driver nowhere to go, and just gets collected.
Yeah, Joachim Osbeck got some airtime there, and look at that banging doors is Jim Brewster and Josh Wilkie. Gotta say, Josh, you may be a little bit careful there. Jim Brewster is a series admin for the Formula V Weekend Warriors race that him and I cover every single Saturday. So, Josh, take it easy out there, my man. You don't want hanging doors with the series admins, because that would not be ideal at all for a good business strategy. But Jim Brewster looking to get that move done on Wilkie, heading down now at the end of the Wellington straightaway into Brooklands. The Wellington straightaway, a massive piece of asphalt, unlike a Wellington actually. So the asphalt, is it asphalt? I think it's asphalt down there. Yeah, so it's asphalt. It's not medium rare beef like a normal Wellington, but nevertheless, I think I may just need some lunch. So Shutwee, who are falling right now, still in the lead of this race. But last time by, Aleix Pleva a little bit quicker in terms of the pace. I got to wonder what Pleva's strategy is going to be throughout the rest of this race. He's shown some winning speed thus far this season, won in Spa in rather controversial circumstances, but he's showing himself to be a rather formidable contender in this race, and he may be a big thorn in the side for Al Shutwee and Simoes.
See Josh Arnold making a move to the inside of the 257. One of the Frito Sport cars causes that Frito Sport car to run wide. I think that's Matt Thompson or Edgar Sancinelli. It's one of those two, but Josh Arnold gets that move done into the club or the Vail chicane and gets it, sticks it through, or sorry, that was not the Vail chicane. That was different part of the lap. He gets the move done though and gets a spot. We're going to take a look at Aid Allen trying to get a move done on the Cookie Monster. Phil Berry, they're going too wide into Maggots and Beckett's. This is not a place I'd want to be, but it looks like Allen gets the move done before they get into the meat of Maggots and Beckett's and going to be able to get that move done. We've seen a lot of racing in that section of the track. Claudio Gardini in a fight here as well. And that 933 running wide and going to allow Gardini. So some of these faster drivers, some of these Spec 1 drivers trying to make their way through the field, and possibly did it look like he maybe got a slowdown there. And another battle coming down the hangar straightaway. We see Kenneth Batley is doing the over-under on a Masters driver. Is that Antonio Reese possibly that he's getting the move done on? No, it's not Antonio Reese. That is somebody else. Michael Nelson, yes. Or Russ. Michael Nelson. So gets that move done. A very, very spicy battle there going into the Stowe corner. And we're seeing a lot of action early on. The pack's already spreading out a bit. I expected a bit less action, but it is still early doors in this race. But a lot of these drivers, we're seeing some gaps form. Going to try, it's a little bit of contact there. Paulo Bram fighting and holding on to that position, gets a little loose, a little contact from behind as he slides out from Brad Cathcart, but looks like no harm, no foul. Everything's going to shake out just fine. Very close racing 2x2 through the club, through Vail chicane, or sorry, not Vail chicane. Again, I'm getting it wrong. That was Luffield.
Yeah, lots of corner names around this track. Don't worry there, Randall. But I gotta say, the racing action is so spicy at this point in time. Makes me want to put an ice cube on my tongue. Running wide, heading through turn number 9 of Cops. That, I believe, may have been Odell, who was mega sideways and all that battling. I gotta say, the fact those cars were able to keep it going on the racetrack is an absolute unbridled miracle. But the 297 now feeling some pressure from Wilkie behind, as we see another moment involving GC Course in the 206 car. Let's have a look at it heading down into the Vail chicane right now. And will it be a simple spin? Survey says yes, it is. So that's GC Course going around with a few more corners left to go in that lap. Maybe still feeling the burn. Those tires possibly reduced down to the canvas after that moment with themselves and Joachim Osbeck heading through Stowe earlier on. As we see another moment, this one I believe involving Russ Telker. Different spin, I think, but still spin nevertheless.
Yeah, I guess then the second apex there of the Vail chicane. It is actually the Vail chicane this time, despite me calling everything else the Vail chicane. It looked like it was actually the Vail chicane. That chicane is very tricky, especially the first apex where we saw the first spin. That from GC Course, there's a big bump there just past the apex, and if you don't have the wheel completely straight and you start to feed the gas in, it'll want to whip around on you just like it did for Course. So. It's one of those things you constantly are on the lookout for in that corner, but not a lot of time loss. Everybody's able to get it going back in the right direction and no damage, most importantly.
And no damage, so surprisingly clean for these drivers at this point in time. I say that, though. I think Claudio Gradini just got hit by a falling anvil, saw him dropping down like a stone thrown into a creek. So that may be a moment that we have to take a look at a replay of. Here is Gradini in that 33 car, heading down now into turn number 3 of Village through the stadium section around this track. First introduced back in the early stages of the 2010s, and sideways into the corner, sideways through the corner, and mega sideways to the point of being backwards coming out of it. So that's Gradini having to reverse out of harm's way and get back going in the right direction. Is that number 33 car. He's back rolling it out and away now, but he's all the way down outside the top 30 as a result of that spin. So shows you that in these races, as much as a mistake could cost you really dearly in the Formula Ford race we had earlier on, Randall, here in the Spec Racer Fords, it can cost you dearly in the opposite way. You'll still be in the race, but you'll have to stand by the side of the road for about 14,000 years and let your beard grow long before you can actually rejoin the race in a safe manner.
We're seeing a lot of movement in the wheel from Antonio Reese, so very unstable through Maggots and Beckus, but it was able to keep the speed up, got a decent run off Chapel and is in slipstream there, so he's going to be able to start challenging for positions here. He's going to look to the inside, coming up to the Vale chicane, and yeah, he's looking to the inside now. They're going to go 3 wide, possibly. No, Allen's going to cut over and cover off that outside line. Going to have the preferred entry, but he's going to give up the inside to Reese, who's going to challenge. He's not going to be able to get the move done, so Allen's going to give up 1 spot to the 413. But here comes Reese again through club corner, going to get the move done on to the Lewis Hamilton straightaway. So Antonio Reese is able to work his way. So Allen loses 2 spots in the space of 4 or 5 corners, and is now third in that line, and they're trying to close down that driver ahead, and I'm not really sure. Oh, that's the driver ahead. They're trying to close down. He was able to pull out a little bit of a gap there, but there's a much bigger gap ahead of Witzak there to Houston. So they got a lot of work to do to close up that gap, or else they're just going to be battling for 9th the rest of the race.
Yeah, that's
and importantly, the S2 wins, as I'm hearing in my ear.
Yeah, hearing the wise words from our producer, Adam, that would be a battle for the Spec 2 win. And let's see how that flares up between these drivers. You got the front 3 of the Spec 2 category still running in their own little bubble for now. You have to go all the way back to Paolo Bremen 20th to find the next Spec 2 driver. And here we go. We got some battling involving Jesus Rodriguez and Sebastian Pulse heading through turn at number 6. It looks like no harm, no foul with those racers. Ben Rycroft trying to make hay while the sun is shining again. Moved on and Jesus Rodriguez. Rycroft, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken based off the numbering conventions in this series, is a Spec 2 driver, so not too far off from Phil Berry. So Paolo Brown would actually be 5th of the Spec 2 runners in this race. But nevertheless, it's still a lot of drivers that we got, a lot of drama going on all throughout this field. Rycroft getting involved in a battle of his own. And I will say this pack is actually breaking away a little bit from that front-running pack of Spec 2 drivers involving Dan Witzak, Aid Allen, and Phil Berry. Phil Berry in that 888 car, the Cookie Monster livery, I think he still has that there. And I will briefly bring Adam into this and let him know about something that was going on a couple of weeks ago. And Adam, you may not want to look back at the Zolder broadcast a couple of weeks ago when me and Mr. Josh Wilkie were on the air for that one, because I ended up doing a George R. Binks impression. So if you didn't have a reason to tune into that broadcast, you don't now, because I will leave it at that, at the risk of embarrassing myself further. Antonio Reese now coming down into the pits. Thank you, Antonio Reese, for saving my ass.
Was there a question there? Was there supposed to be a question there?
Antonio Reese being the one to lead the pit strategy is going to be the first one into pit lane here. Normally it's Stevie Ray's the Pied Piper of pit strategy, but not him this time. He's not even in this race. Brad Cathcart also in, but Antonio Reese, not unknown for him to come in very early, only 14 and a half minutes into this race. So seeing him come into the pit lane, we're going to see how long he's stopped for, and he's going to set the watermark for how much fuel you need to get in this car to continue on. Right now, he's crossing the 10-second barrier. We're going to keep going, and now he's rolling again. It looks like, yes, and he was stopped for 14 seconds. So it looks like Antonio taking 14 seconds of fuel. We'll see what everybody else does, but the early pit strategy from Antonio Reese, we'll see if that plays out for him.
I will say, Adam, there was no question that was being thrown your way. I just want to fill you in on the travesty of me having to do a George R. Binks impression live on the air. I say had
I will
to
not
as
watch
if
that.
I was like contractually obligated. Yeah, I don't necessarily blame you. Oh boy, Jorg Mani currently running 8th at the moment, leading in the Masters category, and it's been a pretty good drive from Jorg Mani, and has a nice cushion between himself and the next Masters racer. I have to go all the way back to Mitchell now in the 917 car to find the next Masters driver. So that's a rather big gap, but of course Antonio Reese coming down pit lane certainly is part of the reason why that is the case. A very early call to pit from Antonio Reese, but he finds himself in that pit window, so no harm, no foul in that regard.
I'm hearing lots of alarming sounds from the production booth. I'm not sure what's going on there. Dan Witzak with a little bit of damage to that front end. It looks purely cosmetic at this point. I don't think, it doesn't look like any of the fenders are flared in or anything. So I think it's going to be fine and not really affect that car. He's at the head of this 4-car pack. We will see if he's able to keep this position or not. I want to take a quick want to talk about the leader for just a second. Sola Shutwi has led the way the entire time, and Samoz is now in second place. So Samoz has flexed his muscles, got his elbows out, and gotten around Aleix Pleva, but there's not been a lot of fighting there. So Shutwi has led the way as we see Witzak dip into the pit lane. So Samoz and Pleva have both been able to do a lot of fuel saving, where Shutwi has not been able to. So that may be the deciding factor here in this race, who's going to have the top step of that podium. As we jump to Sola Shutwi, and he is, Felix Samoz is done fuel saving. It looks like he is looking very aggressive, closing that gap up and feeling the pressure from Pleva. We know Pleva is smart enough to kind of sit back and fuel save if he needs to. So we'll see if he tries to get the second spot back or not. But the pit strategy is going to be a huge thing here for this group.
Oh, it absolutely will, Randall. We've seen that play a big factor in the races we've had thus far this season. Silverstone certainly set to be no different. Even around a racetrack like this as well, where we've got a lot of long straightaways, the Wellington straight, for instance, that we're seeing Phil Berry go through right now. But even outside of that, the start-finish straightaway, the Lewis Hamilton straightaway, as it's called now, the flat-out blast one used to be the Grand Prix pits between turn number 8 of, I believe it is Woodcut. I'd usually take a look at my track map. I'm currently cleaning my glasses off, though. Yes, it is Woodcut, so you can tell that my glasses are very much a necessity and not just used for some quick fashion. But that straightaway between turn number 8 of Woodcut and turn number 9 of Cops. You also got the Hanger straightaway as well, the Vale straightaway between the Vale chicane and the 15th corner of Stowe. So you got some long flat-out blasts around this racetrack, but despite that, you're not usually seeing that constant game of Spec Racer Ford leapfrog that you usually see, and I'm curious as to what your thoughts about that really are, Randall, as to whether or not this track kind of encourages just some normal racing that you usually see with some other cars instead of the draft fest that we saw at a track like Summit Point 1 week ago or Spa a couple of weeks ago, where that race was just a glorified game of leapfrog if ever I saw one.
Yeah, anytime you have a lot of straightaways followed by braking zones, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to make passes. And what's really, we're going to jump back here to Michelle Viglini, who seems to have some sort of issue on the infield section of this track, in left field. Boy, I just cannot spot the corners on this track today. Going to spin it around and get it going back in the right direction. Not a lot of time lost, but we see a lot of gaps in the field, so there's definitely a lot of differences in speed. What surprises me most, though, is Alan and Barry, as we see Alan dipping into the pit lane. These two Spec 2 drivers able to really punch above their weight in the top 10, and it's not like we've had a lot of carnage out there that they've been able to avoid. This is just purely talent. So two Spec 2 drivers, they must really, really like this track. This might be one of their favorite tracks, and it's showing today.
I gotta say, Silverstone is one of those tracks where if you love it, you absolutely love it, and you can feel unstoppable driving around here. Getting into a good comfort zone, oh so important in these races. Following Michael McConnell, who we had a rather odd chat. I say we, it was me and Adam barging into the Spec Racer Ford driver chat to have a discussion with him and interview him after a rather hectic one in the Formula Fords earlier on today here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. But he's putting on a pretty okay drive at the moment, down 3 spots from where he started in this race, but still occupying the final spot inside the top 10, and maybe going to eye up making one of those back. The Cookie Monster of Phil Berry with very odd-looking eyes, as the 888 on the front of it covers up the eyes on the Cookie Monster. Look at that. That's reminds me very much of my sleep paralysis demon, and that is not a good comparison at all. Phil Berry, though, currently leading in the Spec 2. There's a look at that beast. Holy cow, that's... Oh... That's looks like something you'd see in a horror game. So Cookie Monster really seeming like a monster at this point in time. Phil Berry with a monstrous drive, which may not seem like much, but he's in a very exclusive club of drivers who are running in the exact same spot that they started this race in. So pretty good. However, one really good spot to find yourself in is being the hard charger, which is actually a battle going on right now between Josh Arnold and Andre Favini. Favini currently up 18 spots. Arnold now up 19 as Favini gets a move done on him. These two tied at 19 positions gained as it stands currently. Solal Shutwi, though, coming into pit lane from the lead of this race. So as we got battles going on all throughout this field, we have to talk about the pit strategy. I think unless I'm very much mistaken, Felix Samoz and Aleix Pleva not going to join him. Houston in the number 84 car, though, will. But Solal Shutwi coming into the pits all by himself at the north end of the field.
That's a really interesting call. I know that he came in, probably has no control over when the drivers behind him are going to pit, but he probably wouldn't wanted to have come in alone. Though he's been leading the way the entire time. As long as he gets some clean air, he should be able to set some quality pace laps once he comes out of the pit lane, and hopefully retain that position. But if he comes out in some traffic, he hopes that it's some faster traffic that'll give him some slipstream and possibly not fight him too much as he tries to make his way around them. But right now, watching his pit lane time, he's out of the pit lane with a 16:63 stop time, so about 2 seconds slower than we saw out of Antonio Reese. We were watching another battle with Aid Allen there for the Spec 2 lead, and he came into the pits and he was stopped for a whole 17 seconds. So we're seeing a pretty wide variety of pit stop times out of these drivers. Right now, I got my eye on Dan Whitjack, who was only stopped for 8.7 seconds. So trying to go for that Thompson trophy for fuel management is Dan Whitjack. Keep an eye on him. He may have to come back in for service once again.
I feel like if we mention the Thompson trophy too many times, I think our audio may get cut off on this broadcast here, Randall, so I will refrain. Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you for the mic cut there. Hopefully you weren't fibbing me, or hopefully that comment was caught on the air. Oh boy! So I guess we did get our mics cut there, so we will refrain from any further comment. That was beautiful timing there. Well done, Adam. Ben Rycroft's leading in the Spec 2 category as it stands at the moment, and looking through at the pace that some of these drivers are setting as well. It's pretty even keel with a lot of them in terms of the times that they have been setting. I'm trying to see if there's any I'm trying to remember now whether it was the Spec Racer Fords or the Formula Fords 1 week ago here on SMB where we had a tie for the fastest lap of the race. That, or it may have actually been on the Ray Ray Esports Club Series, which you can also catch every Wednesday here on SMB with that subtle plug out of the way. But still, wouldn't be too surprised if we had some drivers just about tie in terms of their best laps of the race. It was the SRFs. There we go. Okay, so my intuition did not come back to bite me on the ass. For the first time in the 20 years I've been on planet Earth, Felix Samoa is still leading it over Elise Pleva, not coming in to shadow that call that we saw from Sol Al-Shutwi a couple of laps ago, which intrigues me there, Randall. I don't know about you, but that really surprises me.
And it looks like we have some trouble with Daniel Salmon getting it just a little bit wrong. Gets it slide sideways there. It looks like he's on the infield section of the track. Yes, comes out and spins it around. Gets it going back in the right direction pretty quickly. So no real harm done there. Not a huge time loss for him. I do want to point out the Sul Shoot. We did come out into some traffic. He was behind Flavio Andalo and Josh Wilkie. He's made his way around both of those drivers and now has a little bit of a gap up to Ben Rycroft. So he's made his way around a couple faster drivers. Probably got a little bit of slipstream. It doesn't look like he lost too much time fighting with them, so it's still in a decent position. We'll see if Samoes was able to save much fuel and if Pleva has continued to save fuel. And that puts Jason Green up to third provisionally now, but your effective leader of the race is still possibly Sul Al-Shutwi. We'll see once these drivers come in, but once the lead drivers come in, if that shakes out. Jason Green doing good in third place. That gap has been getting a little bit bigger every lap to the car ahead, so he's really gonna need something to develop ahead of him in order to have a chance to get a foot on that podium. And he's got Naselli right behind him, and Naselli showing some uncharacteristic lack of pace. And when I say lack of pace, he's in fifth effectively right now, so it's still a really good run out of Naselli, but he's hanging out here with Jason Green battling for fourth place.
And here we go, some side-by-side racing involving Naselli and Green. Naselli going to slip his way up into third as we see Felix Samoas and Elise Pleva make that call to come down pit lane. There we go from the lead of the race. Naselli going to join them. So the front three in this Spec Racer Ford race going to all come into the pits together. Jason Green going to stay out for yet another lap. That pit entry, hoping not to come back and bite these drivers on the butt. As we also have Binkley and York Monty from the lead in the Masters category coming in as well. So this is going to give at least temporarily the lead of the race to Jason Green. Urgmani slotted in there as well. McConnell coming into the pits along with Ben Rycroft. So a lot of drivers deciding that, hey, no better time than lap 12 to come into the pits. That's the first time I think that sentence has ever been said in the history of mankind, which is saying something, because I think it was actually lap 11 by the time they came in. But still, nevertheless, lots of drivers deciding that this is the golden opportunity to come into the pits. Felix Samoa is going to be slotted in P2. I'm looking to see where Sol Al-Shutwi is. I think Sol Al-Shutwi really did not work that well out at all. That was not good grammar at all, but Sol Al-Shutwi not working out well in all of that drama, and let's see how things are going to work out with him in that 132 car, running in 6th as it stands at the moment. Still not a big gap between himself and Felix Samoa, as it's actually turned into a mild hornet's nest, shall we say, with Samoa's running in 2nd as it stands at the moment. Jason Green in the lead, still yet to come down pit lane. Sebastian Pulse yet to come into the pits either in the 36 car. Neither is Jesus Rodriguez. Elias Pleva and Sol Al-Shutwi have, and Josh Wilkie finds himself in P7 at the moment. We'll mention Sergio Dorelli because as it stands at this point in the race, he is the hard charger, up 28 spots since the drop of the green flag, which is a very good run for him. But looking at this field at the moment, still in the midst of this pit cycle, and not working out well at all for Al-Shutwi.
Al-Shutwi with a 16.6 second stop time, and then Samoa's was stopped for 13.7 and Malaysia only for 13.2. So they were able to save a lot of fuel by letting Al-Shutwi punch a hole in the air the entire first part of this race. So being in the lead looked good with that clear view ahead, but did not look good when it came time to the pit stop because he had to take a lot more fuel. Now they're dealing with some traffic here. Samoa's has a few cars between him and Pleva, but these cars still need a pit. So Pleva needs to be patiently aggressive here to try to get around, but needs to understand these drivers are probably going to be coming into the pits, and he's not that far away from Samoa's, who has to run a little bit wide there. At the end of the hangar straight, it looked like a little bit of a checkup, maybe out into the marbles a bit, and he's going to have the inside line into the Vale chicane, but Pleva is there. Pleva is right there on his rear bumper, so this battle for the lead is there, and look who's rejoined him. It's Sol Al-Shutwi. Oh, sorry, no. That is, it's Sol Al-Shutwi. So he's managed to close that gap back up. So it's back to a 3-way fight. And look who's hanging out back there behind them. Is that Flavio Andallo? He's already coming into the pits, too. So he's in a good position looking to get some fight in here. If he can close that gap up, he's not too far away where it's impossible. And then Jason Green is about the same distance behind. So we could see as much as a 5-car battle if these leaders start fighting with only 11 minutes to go. And I got to shout out my boy Tom Went there in the chat. Another one of the Frito Sport drivers. Going to be seeing them on track here come Tuesday evening in the American Muscle Series. So how's it going, Tom? Hope you're having a good Sunday. And hey, everybody, don't forget to hit that like button.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. I'll tell you what, if I had $1 for every single time I said that on the air and it actually resulted in a subscriber being subscribed to Slow Motion Broadcasting, I would probably be able to have lunch today. Looking at 8 Allen running a third. That was kind of sad. I apologize for that. 8 Allen now leading in the Spec 2 category and going to swiftly and abruptly move on from that. That car just looks absolutely beautiful. I gotta say, some very nice looking liveries up and down the grid, but I think I'm so damn hungry. Hungry'll, there we go. I like the L right there at the bottom of the end of that. How many food references have I made during this broadcast? I think I said the Wellington straightaway, a big line of asphalt instead of a big line of medium well beef. Man, there's some things that come out of my mouth that really should not come out of anybody's mouth. How people actually bear me being on the air will always stun me. 8 Allen running in lucky number P13. Maybe gotta try and get a move done, or at least think about it on Sebastian Pulse heading through turn number 2. That's a very nice name to say, Sebastian Pulse. I believe first time he's run this season for sure. I'm not sure if he's run in the Weekend Warriors in the past. I certainly don't recognize that name, but the driver of the number 36 car doing all right in his series debut, up 9 spots from where he started in this race, which may not be the high, but still pretty good, as Flavio Andallo going to finally make that call to come down into pit lane for that 145 car. So has he come into the pits already in this race? I think he may have said that he did a few moments ago, Randall, but I think that may have actually been a very early call to come into the pits if it was. But either way, Andallo in, so that's going to break the front three loose at the front of the field.
Yeah, way to point out my error. There was a lot of shuffling going on the tiny screen. I was in fact wrong about Flavio Andallo. I was just waiting for a moment to correct myself, and he corrected me for me. So Flavio Andallo into the pit lane out of that P4 position, going to give it up to Jason Green and Maurizio Naselli and possibly a few others. So the gap back to from the top three is going to be a pretty insurmountable, close to 5 seconds at this point. They're going to need a lot of fighting and possibly a miracle to close that distance up in 8.5 minutes. So right now, it looks like the top three are going to be Somoza, Shootwe, and Pleva. Unless something happens, Shootwe's made his way around Pleva and now making a move for the lead. Going to get the 2-for-1 special here coming through Luffield. And yeah, we're going to go back and take a look at this move. He gets it done coming into Brooklands, and then into Luffield, gets the inside line on Pleva, and then able to get back on the throttle. A big wiggle there out of Samoz allows him to get both spots. Samoz going to lose two here, so Pleva going to stay in the same spot. He's just looking at a different rear bumper now.
Yeah, different rear bumper, but still the same Spec Racer Ford in front of them. Same kind of car at the very least, but still these drivers going to give us a fantastic fight all the way up until the checkered flag. It's been a brilliant race thus far, you gotta say. It's the classic Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors action, which you can catch every single Sunday here on SMB with battles going on all throughout the field. And here is another one. We've got a Hornet's Nest forming with Sebastian Pulse in 10th. Jesus Rodriguez in P11, 8. Allen currently leading, still in the Spec 2 category. Flavio Andallo involved in this fight as well. Trent Kramer involved in it as well. I believe the last car in this train is actually Michael McConnell in P15. There he is in the number 62 car. And we'll yet again mention the other wonderful photo that he has with him on the SDK graphics that we've got here on SMB. But still, I got a Hornet's Nest forming all throughout this field, and a side-by-side fight going on involving Paolo Brema and Michael Nelson. Nelson has put on a fabulous recovery drive. He started this race going through the grass and backwards at the very start of it, but he's put on a rousing drive to make his way up to 26th. Has not lost out on any spots since where he started at the start of the race, so well held to Nelson.
Stephen Mitchell also there knocking on the door, trying to make this a three-way battle, and he's definitely in the catbird seat in this fight. If these two start getting their elbows out too much, he's going to have the 2-for-1 special, like we've seen it pulled off a couple times as they make their way towards the Vale chicane. He seems pretty not aggressive. Oh, a little bit of a bump, and this is exactly what I was talking about. He's going to get both of them coming through the Vale chicane. He's going to have the outside line coming up to club corner, but it looks like he has the momentum and it gets him done. Boy, you just start calling me that Karnak the Magnificent. I think I just did that with my mind.
Oh boy. I don't even know what to say to that. Sis Boom Ba describe the sand. Fuck. Oh, sorry. Oh.
Here's your shovel. You can keep digging that hole deeper there, Ron.
I am
ladies and gentlemen, you will have to forgive Ron Mons. He is a native of Philadelphia, so English is not his first language.
Oh, I am so sorry. I have been doing this stuff for a year and a half. Oh my! I am so sorry.
It looks like we had another car. It looks like that Masters Division car, Michael Nelson, was around there in turn 4. So that battle is going to be over for him. We saw him spin around, and now we see him coming through the fog in the background. Marcus Burkett making his way into Brooklands and then towards Luffield. So that battle is a bit over for Nelson. We're going to jump back to 31st place. Edgar having a pretty quiet run. We haven't seen much out of Edgar this race, sitting back in 31st. I suspect that he probably hates this place.
Looking at Edgar Sancinelli running in 31st at the present moment. He's up 1 spot from where he started in this race. Michael Nelson now down 6. So I guess a commentator's jinx coming back to bite him on the butt. Looking at some drivers still making their way through the field at the present moment. I'm trying to figure out who the hard charger is at this point in time. I'm trying to see. We got a couple drivers up 10 spots. Sergio Dorelli up 20, running in 18th at the present moment. So talk about a good drive from the driver of the number 86 car. He may try and get another move done as Sebastian Pulse currently running right in front of him, taking the defensive line, heading off into the Vale chicane and going to hold him off for now.
And we're seeing a lot of shuffling around. If you've ever watched an F1 race here, it's always pretty wild. You have that combination of lots of slipstream and lots of braking zones, so you always see lots of action. And kind of like I predicted at the beginning of the race, we're seeing a lot of groups forming here towards the end of the race as the field is kind of stretched out. Like we have this group up here for the battle for the win. This threesome has been together since the beginning of the race. We thought Sulashutwi, with a slow pit stop, had kind of done his race in by leading for so long and was able to regain that time lost in the pits and regain the lead position, and is continuing to show the way over Aleix Pleva and Felix Simoes. This is how they started the race. Now Felix looking pretty punchy, showing the nose coming up to the chapel corner. He's gonna back out of that pretty wisely, I would think, but he's gonna looking to be having a really good run through Magus, Beckett's, and Chapel, and get that last move done here coming up down the hangar straight. And I heard the door open. I think Adam made his way through the lock and into the commentary booth again.
I did, yes. Hello, Ron is taking a moment here, trying to compose himself. So I guess the question I have to you, with about 3 minutes left in the race, Randall, is where exactly do you want to be in this 3-car battle for the lead? Are you happy if you're Felix Simoes right now, or do you want to try to make a move?
If you're Felix Simoes, I think you want to get the first move done at the end of the Wellington straight to be set up for the hangar straight. And that's where you're really going to be looking to make the move, though. You're going to have to go extremely defensive right here into the Vale chicane. We're not seeing Sulashutwi go very defensive yet, but he will be if he's in that position come the white flag. Are they going to get the white flag this time? No, it doesn't look like it.
No.
It's very close. I can't see the flagman through the fog, but no, it does not look like the white flag. So they're going to have another circuit. Yeah, there we see Barney in the flag stand with no flag in his hand and not waving anything. So they're going to have 2 more circuits of this track to get this sorted out right now. Aleix Pleva deciding that he wants the lead here. I think maybe that's a good idea. Felix looking very racy from behind. So trying to get a car between him and Felix to possibly get those two to battle. That's the other thing you got to look out for. The good part about being in the lead here is a second and third fight. You have a chance to build up a little bit of a buffer, and you'll be able to see a move coming much easier because you see a bit of a freight train, a bit of a bump draft from Felix. Felix wants second place here. They're fighting like this is the white flag. They're going to have another lap at this. And hopefully this doesn't spell out disaster. You see Felix running really, really heavy on the inside curve there at Brooklands and manages to get second place off of Aleix Pleva through Luffield. And now the run down through Woodcut, and they're going to have their hands full here. I'm not sure if going through Abbey, if they want to try to go too wide or not. Felix showing the nose a little bit, not really going for the move quite yet, though.
I'm going to turn this back over to Ron, and the one thing I do want to say, Ron, as the founder of Slow Motion Broadcasting and the owner, not technically still the owner of Slow Motion Broadcasting, Ron, it's okay to say fuck every year and a half. You're fine, buddy.
I don't even know what to say at this point in time. I've just been fucking... Oh my God.
Oh, yeah, you already used it. You've already used it. That's going to be a penalty.
Okay, yeah, that's gonna be a penalty. I'm sorry. I have been like crying for the past like 15 minutes. So here we go. Let's call this finish as if nothing is wrong and nothing is out of whack at all, and I haven't just done 2 cardinal sins in this span of about 5 minutes here. Looking at some battles going on all throughout this field. We've got a battle coming to the line with Simoes and Al-Shutwi, though. Are they coming to the checkered flag? They are coming to the checkered flag. We've got a fight with Binkley and Monty, but I don't really am worrying about that at all. We've got a fight going on for the lead. Aleix Pleva moving up to the front of it as Al-Shutwi and Simoes came to blows heading through the final chicane. Aleix Pleva going to win a race yet again in dramatic fashion, but Simoes and Al-Shutwi going to end up rounding out your podium in a very odd way.
Yeah, a big battle here. Allen is involved. He's 3 wide into the Vale chicane. That's not going to work out, but they do manage to get it work out. Flavio Adalo is going to get that spot away from him. Rodriguez ahead, but here comes Kramer going to get the inside of Allen, and a big finish here, but Allen's going to end up with the Spec 2 win. But look at this group crossing the line.
That was a brilliant end to this race. Some side-by-side finishes all throughout. Gotta say, Dorelli gotta be your hard charger up 22 spots from where he started in this race. Vivini and Arnold, they're a tie at the moment in terms of who's made up the most amount of spots. And they crossed the line like that. They're both gaining 18 spots right at the line as well. They nearly set identical lap times to bring this race to a close. Holy cow, what an odd day of racing action here from, I nearly said Summit Point. Man, I'm all over the place today. What an odd day of racing action here from Silverstone with the Spec Racer Fords. Battles all throughout the field, some side-by-side racing right to the line. But that finish with Pleva, Samoas, and Al Shutwi, I'm going to have to take a look at that. I was still trying to get my bearings straight, and I think as I was getting my bearings straight, they got their bearings completely sideways.
Yeah, but I'm going to have to apologize to the viewers. We thought they had another lap going. I think Barney, the flagman, may have been taking his union mandated break. He was still in the flag stand. He had the checkered flag in his hand, but he wasn't even waving it. I think the same thing was true with the white flag. He had it in his hand, wasn't waving it, so we couldn't see it. I knew it was very close on time, so I thought we had a second lap. And I even mentioned it looked like they were racing on the white flag, and that was true. They were actually racing like it was the white flag, because it was the white flag. I'm hearing in my ear, we're going to try to get that battle in Vale Chicane loaded up on a replay to see exactly what happened and how that shaked out. But Aleix Pleva coming out the winner on that one.
And let's take a look at this finish heading down into that Vale Chicane. We were thinking a move was going to be done here, and he tried to go for it, but it was just messy in nature, and there you go. Both of those cars had a really good shot to win in the contact as well. That's two drivers who have been, I mean, they've had very good seasons of both of them, but Samoa's, you got to feel bad for the guy. He's been so many battles for the win coming to the checkered flag. But in just about every single one of them, it has fallen apart. So unfortunate for Samoas, who's going to come up short yet again. I'm going to take a look at another angle of this. Felix Samoas, I know that he is a very fast driver in that number 31 car. Let's take a look at this. Heading down into that chicane, trying to get that move done. Really, it was just two cars fighting for the same piece of real estate, and they're going to end in absolute disaster. Aleix Pleva, though, had to be punching the air in celebration, seeing his two main rivals from this race come to blows. An odd one here at Silverstone in more ways than one. A race broadcast, which ends up breaking me. And I will say, even though he said it's okay, I deeply, deeply apologize for the language I've said on the air, and it will not hopefully happen again for as long as I'm doing this stuff full time.
Ron, I'm popping in here right now to tell you to stop worrying about it, at least on slow motion broadcasting, man. It is totally okay, man. Everything is fine. The YouTube chat lit up. It made for a great ending of the broadcast, Ron. Do not worry about it at all.
Well, at least it made it entertaining. That's I got into this stuff thinking I could entertain people, and even in being a complete jackass during this broadcast, I still find a way to entertain people. So no, I think I feel like these people just have my sense of humor. Back when I was 10, I just like hearing people curse, but I'd say that I still have it as 20. But Aleix Pleva going to win this race when everything is said and done. Felix Samoa is going to end up 5.1 seconds behind in P2. So Al Shutwi go around at your podium in third. Gotta say those gaps not representative of what was a heads-up fight between those three all throughout the race. And if it weren't for that bad moment heading through the final chicane, that would have been a bare-knuckle fist fight right to the line, and who knows who would have come out on top then. Jason Green going to finish a little bit farther back behind them in fourth. Kevin Binkley will run at your top five. Then we have Chris Hewson in sixth. Antonio Reese in P7 wins it in the Masters category. Maurizio Nazelli ends up in P8. Jesus Rodriguez in ninth. Flavio Andallo going to round out your top 10. Troy Kramer in P11. Aid Allen wins it in the Spec 2 category, finishing in 12th. Michael McConnell in P13. Ben Rycroft in 14th. Sergio Dorelli, the hard charger, in 15th. Michael Odell in 16th. Dan Witzak in 17th. Sebastian Post in P18. And rounding out your top 20 is going to be Andre Favini and Josh Arnold.
You'll have to forgive me, Ron. I'm having a bit of a technical problem over here. I don't have the correct timing, so I'll let you finish.
Gotcha. I'll pick up the slack and go through this. I mean, it's nothing compared to the 58 cars I decided to go through all on my own 1 week ago. Which, haven't been known, folks, that was a bad decision. Much like it was for me saying those words I said earlier on during this show. Brad Cathcart will finish in 21st. Matt Thompson in 22nd. Kenneth Batley will finish in 23rd. Ray Smith in 24th. Jurg Monty in 25th. Marcus Burkett ends up in 26th, Jim Brewster in 27th, Edgar Sancinelli in P28, Stephen Mitchell ends up in 29th, Joshua Wilkie, SMB's very own, in 30th, Phil Berry in 31st, Paul Jackson in 32nd, Daniel Salmon in 33rd, Mario Kremser will finish in the 34th finishing spot, Michelle Voglini ends up in 35th, Joachim Osbeck in 36th, and rounding out your field is going to be the 37th place finisher of Andrew Love, the 38th finisher of Paolo Brema, Michael Nelson in 39th, Adam Bradshaw in 40th, then GC Course in 41st. I'm not sure if it's a GC Course or GC Course, so we'll go GC Course for now, but the driver of the 206 car ends up in 41st, Claudio Gradini in 42nd, and Russ Telker rounding out your 43 cars that are classified at the end of this race. And at a risk of saying more stuff that I can't say on the air, Randall, I think I'll let you do the honors of interviewing the first driver. Who do you want to have a chat with?
Well, it looks like I'm gonna pull in here Aid Allen. Aid, what a race out there! We've seen you fighting well over your weight class in the top 10 in a Spec 2 car at a tricky track. Is this one of your favorite places to drive, or what?
It certainly is. Yeah, I know it very, very well. So I won't go this well anywhere else.
Well, you had a good race today. The tricky conditions out there for us in the broadcast booth was dealing with the fog. What was the fog like there at driver perspective? Was it terribly bad for you, or did you not even notice it?
Didn't really notice it. No, in the car it was fine. Couldn't see a long way ahead, but then you don't want to see a long way ahead, do you? You want to see the car right in front of you, and that was not a problem.
So tell us what the race was like for you today, and having such a good run. How did it feel out there?
Yeah, it went well. Bit of a fight at the beginning with Phil and Trenton, and then I thought I'd pit fairly early, and I came out right near the back, or well, felt like near the back. But then everyone started pitting in front of me, and I went forward, and then we had a great race the last few laps. It was hectic. I mean, across the line, there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4 of us. 5 of us almost within a second across the line.
Yeah, there was a big gaggle of cars coming across the line, and we were shocked that it didn't end up in disaster for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, coming into through Stowe, I think I was I 9th or 10th, and then by the end of those 2 corners, I was down to 12th.
Yeah, it was absolute chaos in that last lap. So, way to weather the storm and keep the car clean and have an outstanding finish. Coming home with a Spec 2 win. Before we let you go celebrate, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Marcus for inviting me mainly. I only found out of this place a few weeks ago and having awesome fun. So yeah, thanks Marcus Burkett.
Well, congratulations, and we hope to be talking to you again in the future, though it sounds like maybe you're just a Silverstone specialist, but who knows? You know, these Spec 2 races can get pretty wild.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you very much.
That was your Spec 2 winner, Aid Allen. And Ron, who did you manage to track down?
And as a true professional, I have my microphone muted as I lead into this interview with Michael Odell, who's now joining us in the commentary booth. I was able to track him down and drag him into the commentary booth. And now, Michael, welcome into the commentary booth here at SMB and talk us through the race that we just saw here at Silverstone.
Yeah, so honestly, that was a interesting race because then with the start, it seemed like there was a lot of beating and battering around as you guys especially got to see the fireworks in turn, I think it was 2 and 3. So had to really be conservative after that because I did get a good chunk of incident points and didn't want that drive through. So otherwise, it was a good race. It was definitely, it's been a while with the Spec Ford. I think last time I was in the racing and then the booth was 4 months ago before they updated the tire model. It definitely will take some time getting used to as this car feels different than before.
I was going to ask you about that. The Spec Racer Ford has gone through a total evolution here on the iRacing platform, and we haven't really mentioned it too much throughout this season. But as someone who was considering going for a Spec Racer Ford official championship, I want to ask you about the differences in how this Spec Racer Ford is driving this season, which is definitely so important around a track like this.
So with the way it drives, I would say I have a good opinion between the real and the sim, but like with the pro guys, they're a lot faster on it. But in my opinion, from driving an actual spec Ford and driving the sim one, is it seems a little similar to the old gen model with the understeery drive, like how it doesn't seem like it wants to turn. As where with the real spec Ford, if you tried to coast or trail brake, they were a lot more willing to rotate, especially off throttle because these cars do run open diffs. But in the sim, it doesn't seem to have that same lift oversteer that the real one does, where there was corners that if I lifted fully off the throttle, it felt like the entire rear end of the car got picked up on a set of dollies and spun. As where in the sim, if you lift, it doesn't change. It really is a little bit of getting used to, and I'm sure if I spend a good bit of more time on it, I can get it figured out. But it didn't seem like for the 40 minutes of practice that I could really get something to get the car to respond. It seemed like any setup changes I had, which may just be me needing more time with behind the wheel and behind learning how the car in the sim wants to be driven in parallel to the real world one, as this one does seem a lot more as a constant. It doesn't seem like you can't use your pedals to change the driving on the fly like you could in the IRL spec Ford with your lift oversteer or with your brake bias. It doesn't seem to be as reactive to it to an extent, but otherwise it's all right.
I appreciate that very lengthy response because I was going to ask you about the differences from the Spec Racer Ford to real life, but I think you summed it up rather well. And I gotta say, from talking, just hearing that response from you about your experience driving this car on iRacing, gotta say, from my experience driving it, I think I can echo that. So very much on the nose there, Michael. With my personal experience, albeit very good reason why I'm not behind the wheel. I can't even say my usual thing. A very good reason why I'm behind a microphone instead of behind the wheel, but still, nevertheless, Michael, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary booth. And before we let you go on with the rest of your day, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Honestly, I don't know. I would say I'd give the shout out to the family and the parents as usual, as well as just this group and I think it was Stevie, right? Yeah, and just officiating and getting it on and having the invite out. It's really cool to see the contrast because you could see drivers like you or myself, where both of us have driven Spec Ford before, as well as seeing drivers that are absolutely insane in them as never seen the real car, but in the sim they're lethal. And it's that contrast between drivers of some drivers having it where we get in the car as a real driver, we're not used to that lack of feedback, and I think that's the point I'm at now, is getting used to nothing, if that makes sense. I'm getting used to going from having all the sensory, all the input, to there's nothing. So having that is completely different versus with the sim guys in this league, going from having no input to, if they run the real car, having all these inputs kind of surround them. And it's cool to see how the respective sides get on.
I will say, don't get it twisted, Michael. I have not driven a Spec Racer Ford car in real life, but I have driven one in iRacing, and I have seen some in real life. But I never got too far along in my own racing career to get there. But Michael, thank you very much for joining us at the commentary booth and giving your thoughts on this race. And excited to see you back out on the track for the rest of the season, man. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good one.
As well. That right there was Michael Odell, your 18th place finisher when everything is said and done here at Silverstone. And now, Randall, we got Antonio Reese waiting in the interview waiting area, and I'll let you have a chat with him.
Antonio, we take a very, very early pitch strategy. Not an uncommon thing to see out of you. You had been doing that for a while. You quit doing it, and now you're doing it once again. Were you too worried about traffic, or how did that all shake out for you?
Yeah, I was a little worried about the traffic, and then I decided to stay away from that. It was risky for me, so I get a free track after I exit the pits, so I have a chance to try to get some fast laps to try to pass those guys with the pit operation.
So
And
all in
it
all, a really good race
succeeded.
for you.
Yeah, it was. Well, I feel sorry for Manny, Jorg Manny, because he have a very bad luck on the last corner, I think, and he was doing a good race, so he would be the winner, but anyway, these kind of things sometimes happen, and it's not good, but it is what it is.
Absolutely. So, still, even if he had kept it together, you still had a really amazing race. We didn't see many other Masters drivers up as far as the pair of you were. So you were able to lay down pretty consistent lap times. I know some drivers really, really despise Silverstone. What do you think of that track?
Well, this track I think it's not suitable for this kind of car. It's too big and too much draft. But the track I like the layout, flow of the track. I just kind of, it's a little bit unfair for the faster drivers, because, slower drivers get the draft and try to get advantage. But, well, it's Silverstone. It's okay.
Well, congratulations on another great race. Is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out before we let you go celebrate?
Yeah, for our administrator and father of the league is Steve Ray, and for you guys on the broadcast as always, and for the sponsors and the drivers and the viewers on YouTube. So, well, just my thankful to anyone, all of those guys.
And Antonio, I'm going to give you a little piece of unrequested advice. If you go back to watch the replay, maybe don't punch some things from Google Translate that you hear out of Ron's mouth. It was a little spicy, but it was very entertaining.
All right. I was talking with Michael, so you have an interview with Michael before me, and he's driving the real spec. So he have a very nice inputs about the difference between the sim and the real race. So I was talking with him before the interview. It's quite nice. But I'll check the Google for translation. Don't worry.
No, don't Google Translate.
Okay.
You don't want to, Antonio. You really don't want to.
You know what, Antonio? Why don't you just ask Jorg what the Google Translate means of what came out of Ron's mouth? Because I know Jorg's been in a couple of these interview rooms, and there have been some pretty feisty words come out of Jorg's mouth before as well. So yeah, it goes around and it comes around.
That's fair. Okay, guys.
All right, thank you, Antonio. Have a great weekend, buddy.
Thank you for having me. Okay, bye.
That was your Masters Division winner, Antonio Riesenreuter. I'm sorry, I couldn't help but get one more little nudge in there on you.
Yeah, don't worry, it's all right. My farewell performance here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Yee howdy. Even though this will be my final one before I definitely get my happy ass fired, let's take a look at the upcoming stuff here at SMB, because have it be known, the action simply does not stop. In fact, this upcoming Wednesday for Wild Card Wednesday, as I like to say, we've got the Sim Racers Group F4 Championship and the Ray Esports Club Racing League at Road Atlanta for round number 4 for group number 2. But before then, we've got the action from from the American Muscle Series. Man, what is it with my mouth? I may need to wash it out with Dial when I'm done from this broadcast. But we got the American Muscle Series returning here to Slow Motion Broadcasting on Tuesday. Randall, you're the admin from that series, and you're gonna be a part of those broadcasts. So it's gonna be really nice to see it's coming home. Slow Motion Broadcasting.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you before we wrap things up about the upcoming season with AMS.
Oh, it's going to be exciting. AMS, we deliver solid racing all the time. And it's going to be even better because I won't be on track. I'll be back in the commentary booth, not causing mayhem out there. So we'll probably see a bit cleaner racing without me being directly involved. But yes, I'll be heading up the commentary for AMS. I expect another barn burner of a season. It's been great. Last season came down to the last race for the Pro Division Championship, and it was decided by a pit lane speeding penalty in the final race. So it was a close battle the entire season.
Yeah, and hoping to have that same great action coming up starting this Tuesday and continuing through every single Tuesday for quite some time here, all throughout the rest of the season. It's going to be fun, and I hope all of you tuning into this broadcast are going to look forward to that. We also got the action for round number 7 of the Weekend Warriors, with Formula V's running at Sebring in 1 week's time. The Formula Fords making their appearance at Cadwell Park, and the next race of the Spec Racer Ford season is going to be at Winton Down Under, so that's going to be a really good one. Hopefully with a bit less colorful language coming out of me, even if I'm on that broadcast in 1 week's time. But holy cow, a day like no other, a day that will go down in infamy. That is for certain. So I think I'm gonna wrap up the show before any more bad stuff comes out of my mouth. And so for myself, Ron Mons, Randall McGrew joining me in the commentary booth, and Adam Thompson working on the cameras in the oh boy, Adam coming in again. Is this one more rib kick before we wrap things up, or
well, I don't know if it's a rib kick from me or a rib kick from your dad. And I don't know if you can talk about this one on air or not, Ron. But I was told to ask you about the Great White.
You can't. You think it's bad me saying that stuff and immediately regretting it when I'm 20? Imagine me saying those words I said earlier on repeatedly on a roller coaster back when I was 7.
There it is.
I will leave
Got
it
it.
at that.
Got it.
That's the story for all of you. Can't share that one on the air, even though I've said my fair share of bad stuff. I didn't know we could say that all this time. No, we can't. But it happens to the best of us. Maybe I don't really know what to say at this point in time. So before I end up saying any more bad stuff, that will do it from this broadcast. Thank you all very much for watching. Hopefully this is not my farewell performance here on SMB. We'll see you all wherever it is in the not too far off future. Tackle 40 minutes of racing action, a 40-minute race set to have a whole lot of stuff to worry about if you are these racers. Have to worry about the pit stop. Inside your screen, switched his attention to the massive pack of race cars that's going to blow his doors off and blow off the starter stand. The green flag is out, the drivers are on their way. Locked throughout this race, the grass and the gravel that lines this racetrack. It's old school, so it doesn't have a whole lot of asphalt runoff area. He's a very talented racer of his own. These two fast. They crashed very early on into this race. Looking Danny Wood at a big crash, heading through turn number 1. That's chasing that turn number 4. And here we go, side by side racing off into the corner. This can usually end in tears. One of these drivers is gonna have to back out of it. That's going to be Randall. but Martin still allowing some room coming out of the corner. The side-by-side going up the hill through turn number 6. Spade coming out of the corner. Walker, the Canadian, in the number 96. They are banging doors, heading into the braking zone for the final time. They're linked together. Going on there. Better you put a qualifying fuel load in either way. Getting a whole lot of pressure side by side with himself, and that is.
He's now coming out of the pits. Let's see what his pit lane time is, because this is going to be very important when Yanchi wins.
I don't know what to say. There's Red Cap right upside down. And another driver coming in. That's Jeff Jacobson upside down. Oh, boy.